What's up, everybody? It's your boy Tru Element 78 in the building with.
Your one and only reigning and defending Mondo Lucha Hall of Famer, the X-Man, Xavier.
And you know who it is. It's the natural Chris Black.
And today you're tuned into another special edition of Saturday Night Slamcasters. On this episode, we're going to be discussing The Undertaker, The Last Ride, Chapter 4, The Battle Within. This episode mainly covers a little bit of The Undertaker's history with Paul Bearer, how he maintained his character and kayfabe throughout the majority of his career. It covers the it covers the WrestleMania that he did not participate in, but he appeared on a Monday Night Raw following that WrestleMania. And then it covers the disastrous Saudi Arabia show with Goldberg. And then somewhat of a redemption match tagging with Roman Reigns taking on Shawn Michaels and Drew McIntyre. But we'll start from the beginning, which the beginning of this episode mainly focused on The Undertaker maintaining his character inside as well as outside of the ring for almost the majority of his career up until the recent years, where he's been more likely to be seen at Post Malone concerts and doing podcasts and setting up an Instagram and signing on to do signings such as StarCast, which Vince McMahon and the WWE made him pull out of due to conflict of interest on their part. Or should I say, letting the Undertaker's contract expire and him being free to do whatever the hell he damn well pleases.
Just be honest, Vince damn near shit himself.
Just watching his relationship with the Undertaker in the episode, you can see how close and how much respect. Like, we've heard the stories of people getting fired for touching Vince McMahon. Undertaker can go up to him and put his hands around his neck, and Vince McMahon's like, "Ha ha ha, good one, Mark." So it's kind of a
it's like whenever you see Vince McMahon around the Undertaker, he's just all smiles. Like, man, Undertaker must have made him hella money for him to be that goddamn nice to him. Like, he is always happy to see him. Like, he even hugged Undertaker from behind. Undertaker's like, "Who's that?" And it's Vince, big ass grin on his face.
Be like, that better be Michelle. Yeah, so what did you guys always think about The Undertaker's ability to maintain his character inside and outside of the ring throughout the years, especially in a time as the layers of kayfabe were peeled back further and further and further, and he was pretty much the last holdout on the old guard, I should say.
Well, like he was saying, sometimes it kind of hindered him because there's a lot of things that he couldn't do because he had to maintain his character. I mean, that took a lot of discipline, I guess, to constantly be in character whenever you're in the public. He even went as far as saying he was always wearing black, even around, the boys. So, man, I, I don't know if in this day and age, is there anyone, well, MJF, for the most part, he stays in character whenever he's in the public, but it's kind of easier because all he's really doing is being a dick. But the Undertaker's got to maintain like this mystique. He has to maintain, a standoffish kind of demeanor, even though, people who weren't scared would still approach him. But I mean, he had kind of a demeanor that kind of was like, don't bother him. So that had to have been hard. It had to have been hard, especially when everybody else is doing interviews and, opening up the fourth wall or whatever that saying is. Yeah, when everyone else is doing that, he's still being the Undertaker, still being mysterious, still keeping the mystique. Hats off, because I don't think I can do Chris Black 24 hours a day.
So when I look at the Undertaker, they say the best gimmicks are you turned up, but that's not him. So if it's you turned up, yeah, I can see you holding that persona for a long period of time, but that's not the Undertaker. So that had to have been taxing on him a little bit. But I think that's probably why, that is why he wanted to do the biker gimmick so bad, because it was more of him than the Undertaker character. But then Vince saw them dollars coming in, was like, nah, bro, I need you to Get you to go on back.
Be dead again.
I always wonder about the compensation for the Undertaker as a character, especially maintaining that mystique. And as he said, missing out on a lot of opportunities. I'm pretty sure there were a lot of acting gigs. I remember Undertaker. I can't remember what TV show it was growing up. I do remember him making an appearance on a television show growing up, but he pretty much played himself. Like,
Wasn't it Boy Meets World or something?
No. I know he was in the movie with Hogan.
Which one? No Holds Barred?
No, like he was like a bounty hunter or some shit.
Thunder Down Under or whatever. When they was on the boat.
Was it? I can't remember. I don't know why the nanny one is popping into my head, but I guess there wouldn't be any bounty hunters in that movie.
Well, why don't you look it up while we do the show? That's why Google exists.
I got you covered.
The man.
But I mean, even the interviews that he did hold, he still stayed in character. Like, was it the one where Vader basically snatched up the dude who asked him if wrestling was fake, and Undertaker had just sit there, just no-soap the shit.
Yeah. So I don't know. It's interesting. It was always interesting. Like, especially as, like I said, you saw the layers of kayfabe start to erode, and especially as more and more people got on social media, and you were always like, well, Undertaker's not there. And it was also interesting just seeing how it was a contest between all of the boys on who could possibly get him to break character first. Like when they were asking the infamous video and them trying to get him to do a spin-a-rooney, and then of Kurt Angle giving him a hug and then a peck on the cheek and getting the hell out of Dodge. And that was Biker Taker, so he kind of play it off like, it's a long flight back to the States, boy. Who was somebody who you felt that you've been in a ring with or worked with who you felt kind of maintained their character, at least around the fans, that was still real to them, damn it?
Like local guys?
Yeah, or just anybody that you've worked with, like that they as much as they can, they try to keep that veil of kayfabe alive for fans.
I know of a couple of masked wrestlers. I'm not gonna call them luchadors. I mean, they're masked wrestlers that even when they go out to the hang out with or mingle with the fans after the show's over with, they still wear their masks. So I'm pretty sure a lot of fans probably don't know what they look like. So they've maintained that much. I remember when me and Mustafa were training, I think we saw Delirious without his mask and had no clue who he was. So
I always wonder how that works when it comes to how they talk about showing respect for people and they're a luchador and you see them without the mask and you just walk past them. That guy disrespected me. Like, I don't know who the fuck you are. Like, imagine if you had never seen Rey Mysterio without his mask off and then you just walk past this kid in the hallway and you're like, what? Who the fuck kid is this? He's like, what? How dare you disrespect me? I'm the legendary Rey Mysterio. You're like, get the fuck out of here.
Someone get their kid.
Who lying ass
like,
kid is
sure,
this?
Sure, you're Rey Mysterio. Sure.
Whose lying ass kid is this?
But no, like getting back to the question, I think that if there's a person that stayed in quote unquote character, a lot of times maybe they were just, I don't know, feeling themselves a little too much and they kind of started believing their own gimmick. But other than that, no. Otherwise, I don't know, Mojo McQueen, Mustafa, would you say he maintains kayfabe?
No, because he wears a mask. So when he takes the mask off, he's not Mojo McQueen no more.
But do fans know that?
No. Nope. Let's see, Austin Aries. He maintains that kayfabe very well.
Trying to think.
Bobby V. He does the goat gimmick. I mean, that's kind of him.
That's true.
Yes.
I think you just let the secret out though.
Oh shit! So edit that part out.
No edits.
But no, I mean not to the degree of an Undertaker.
Right.
Mostly because most guys on the indies, they not trying. They trying to get as much limelight as possible, so they wouldn't be able to like not mingle with the fans and shit because they want that attention.
The key word there that he used the PC term, trying to get as much trim as possible, as much cooter as possible, as much ass as possible. Is that what you're trying to say? They gotta let these women know who they are, right?
Exactly. No one's trying. No, ain't nobody trying to maintain kayfabe.
The 80s are still alive on the indies, goddamn it. Cocaine. Anyways, I was happy about this episode that they finally started talking about Paul Bearer and that he was featured, even though he's passed away. They showed a couple of his interviews from 2012 that they had conducted with him and just talking about the relationship and the partnership of him and Undertaker, and even showing some of the outtakes of them clowning around in the cemeteries and shooting a lot of the vignettes that they had shot back in the day, and how that became a part of the macabre character of the Undertaker. So I was happy about that.
It was weird watching that segment because, you know, thinking back when I was a kid and watching those promos where he's, you know, making the casket and he's hammering, you know, the iron or whatever. It's funny because you can look at Ric Flair, you know, there's a person behind that character. You can look at Shawn Michaels and realize, okay, there's a man behind that. Even someone that's like Hogan, because he was such in the public eye, there was always a person behind the personality. Undertaker, what you saw is what you get. What you got. You got the Undertaker. I, as a kid, did not relate a person behind that personality. He just seemed so well into that character that he became that character, and I couldn't see him as a normal human being, so to speak.
I actually thought he was a zombie when I was a kid. So I was scared of the Undertaker. Undertaker and Jake the Snake are responsible for me stop watching wrestling growing up. Mustafa, have you found the movie that Chris Black was referencing, or any of the Undertaker's IMDb credits?
Suburban Commando.
Oh, okay.
I don't even know how you find that, because you go to his IMDb, man, this guy got more hits in here than most actors I've seen. Because every WWE pay-per-view he gets a credit for.
Oh,
every special he gets a credit for. This is crazy. That's why I didn't find it.
Oh yeah, Suburban Commando.
All right, so
he has 130 credits as an actor, 222 under self, and 128 for archive footage.
Damn.
Well, what did you guys think about when he mentioned the signing on for StarCast and him talking about he had some ideals and some thoughts on the way things should go? Vince had some thoughts and ideals, and they pretty much fell out of the relationship was damaged. And it sounds like it's still a little bit damaged, even though the footage in there doesn't make it seem like it's as strained as it was. But that could also be now Undertaker signed that 20-year deal for the rights to his name. What did you guys originally think about that him and Kurt Angle were forced to drop out of that signing for AEW? Well, for StarCast, which was a part of AEW's Double or Nothing weekend, which it was interesting to see them actually put up the listing for the signing and then an article talking about how he dropped off, and in the background you could read Double or Nothing AEW, that they gave AEW some spotlight on here.
Just knowing the Undertaker, do you think he had his finger on the pulse and was aware of AEW, or did he just see an opportunity to do signings and it was a convenient point in his life where he was going to be more public and he didn't even realize that AEW was even going to be there or even going to be affiliated with it? So I can see him just kind of overlooking it. And when it was brought to his attention, he's just like, oh, well, I didn't even know that. Like, I think he sounded pretty genuine. I don't think he was trying to start no controversy. I don't think he was doing like a Randy Orton to get himself a bigger contract by teasing a AEW deal or whatever. I think it was an innocent overlook.
I think I remember us having this conversation before. I don't know if it was on the last Undertaker special, but to me, I don't know. I feel like those are two separate things. It's not even ran by AEW, so I don't even see what the big deal was. But they took him and Kurt Angle off, so I guess it is what it is. But
Well, I think the big deal was that um, basically, yes, it was its own deal, but for the most part, it was so AEW heavy, and most people that were involved probably had something to do with AEW. If not, AEW kind of. Well, no, I can't say that. I just think that it wasn't a WWE event, so I think that's I think that's the issue.
I feel that when he signed on, he knew it was in conjunction with another wrestling promotion. Whether he was told it was AEW or whatever, he had to
Think so?
possibly know that. I'm pretty sure when it was presented to him, like, oh, it's an entire weekend around wrestling events or whatever, or a wrestling event, and the signing is on Saturday and the show is on Sunday, or however that they were organizing it. I would think that anytime you're going to do a signing like that, you're kind of going to know what it's affiliated with and
But
and the amount of fans to kind of expect to show up, because
maybe,
because you got
but
to
maybe he thought it was like
go ahead.
maybe he thought it was like there's a company around here called Great Lakes Championship Wrestling, and they have some of these conventions where they have autograph signings and stuff like that. Do you think he thought maybe it was just some indie company trying to get some clout by having some people do some signings?
Well, from what I hear about what Undertaker's rates are, and you guys might know better than me, as soon as you hear that Kurt Angle and Undertaker are going to be on there together, plus everybody else that was on there, you would kind of be like, where's, you might start questioning where the money's coming from, or if you're actually going to get paid your rate that you're asking for. So,
Well, there was a indie company in Chicago that I believe brought in Hogan. I think they paid what is it? Like, was it $10,000 or
yeah,
something like that?
but who else did they bring in besides Hogan? Like, did they bring in
Oh,
anybody?
Hogan didn't wrestle. He didn't wrestle.
I know that, but I'm saying for the signing, who else was on there? I'm pretty sure they probably shot their whole load on Hogan. But this was a weekend where
Oh yeah, definitely.
but this was a weekend where you had Undertaker, you had Kurt Angle, you had Sting, you had, I think that Double or Nothing was where Bret Hart presented the title, or
Yeah, but there's still some money marks out there that is one to throw money away just to hobnob with
right. But still, when
some wrestlers.
but still, as a wrestler and somebody's booking you that you don't know who they are, wouldn't you kind of be questioning if you're actually going to get paid, and who is this affiliated with? Because you don't want to show up there.
I'm sure he got a deposit, and if he wasn't taking a bump, I don't think he really cared too much as long as they paid him his money.
Yeah. So
which I believe Undertaker was going for 20 grand an autograph signing. I believe.
So
Is that in the Legacy Pro Wrestling budget?
I don't think so. I mean, I tried to move some things around, but it just didn't work out.
I'll sacrifice my pay to bring in the Undertaker.
well, they really need
So long as another 20,000 of you. No.
Oh man. So moving on from there, I can't remember which WrestleMania this was. This year was 36, so this would have been WrestleMania 35, I'm assuming. Yeah, 35, where Undertaker was not on the card. So he took that time out to enjoy WrestleMania pretty much as a fan with backstage access and spend it with his family. And he said it was his first time actually being able to attend access and go around with Michelle McCool. And I know we keep giving Michelle McCool praise. Michelle McCool is a dime. They showed his daughter around, showed her the belts and everything, and he says that maybe his daughter's going to grow up to be a wrestler. He's like, she kind of gets the business a little bit and understands what they're all about. So who knows, in a few years, I know right now AEW has Abaddon. Maybe you'll have whatever Undertaker's daughter, the She-Taker or whatever they want to call her, in a couple of years. Going in there and pinning Charlotte Flair. As you know what? Probably by the time his daughter's grown, Charlotte Flair will still be going over on Undertaker's daughter. Who knows?
I don't know. The shelf life of the women's aren't as long as the men's. And that's not me saying anything that's,
You know, you just got canceled, right?
no, I'm just saying I'm not saying anything disparaging. I'm just saying the shelf life.
So it's Chris Black at
History has
twitter.com,
proven.
at Chris Black on Twitter, at the natural Chris Black on Twitter.
I mean, think about it. There's not that many women in the business that have been around for 4 decades or whatever.
Hey, Fabulous Moolah and Mae Young did it.
Yeah, and they did, and could name two more. Well, maybe Sherry, Sensational Sherry, but name another one.
Shoot, Mickey James is almost there.
Mickey James, she's been around since the '90s.
Yeah.
So about maybe 3 decades.
And
she can still go.
Yeah, so don't say that. It's just that women weren't involved as much, and now they are. So we'll see. It all
well, unfortunately, I mean, women are a little more judged more so on their looks. Not to say that guys aren't in this business, but it's real. You're very replaceable because there's always a younger face, younger body. That's why I said their shelf life isn't that long.
Yeah. So here's one of the funniest parts of this episode is that he wasn't a part of WrestleMania, and he's experiencing access and going around and spending time with his family, and he gets a text from Vince McMahon saying, "Hey, we need you for Monday Night Raw." And so he's like, "Okay, fine." And he's like, "But I don't have my gear. WrestleMania is in New York. Undertaker lives in Texas." And he's like, "You don't have your gear?" He's like, and Michelle McCool's like, "Yeah, that's a rookie mistake." And so they put Undertaker on a plane and fly him back to Texas to get his bag, and then fly him back to New York all in the same day so that he could have his gear for Monday Night Raw, which I found spectacular, that they're supposed to have costume designers and everything like that, or that they couldn't send somebody to a big and tall store to get him a pair of black slacks and some boots and a trench coat and a brimmed hat.
They're gonna be like, "Where's Damian?" They're gonna be like, "Where's Damian Priest?" Oh wait, he's not here yet.
Okay, for the fans out there who don't get it, like how ingrained that is in the minds of a professional wrestler to bring your gear, I felt bad by not bringing my gear when I was just going down to Houston to watch the Royal Rumble. Now, I know damn well ain't nobody going to pull me out the crowd and be like, "Hey, Chris Black, we really need you tonight." But as a pro wrestler, you're supposed to be ready to go at any point, at any time. So let's just say while we was in Houston and by some stroke of luck, anybody, would have recognized us and say, "Oh, shit.
World famous jobber, Chris Black.
We got 3 spots open in the Rumble. You got your gear?" We would all been looking real salty right about then.
Well, see, one of my mentors has always told me, always say yes and then make it work.
Right, there got to be a sporting goods store around somewhere.
Thank you, Rashi Brown. He was like, "Even if you don't, you do. And you go home and get it or whatever you got to do. Make it happen." But again, we talk about the highest level possible. Usually the Undertaker should have got a notification that he was going to be needed for Monday Night Raw before Sunday. So
wouldn't you, as the Undertaker, wouldn't you have just brought an outfit, because you never know, you might be needed to cut a promo, to take a filler, just something.
I just wish they would have had the camera back there when Vince McMahon reamed him out about it.
Oh, I like what Vince said to him. I like what Vince said to him. He's like, "A pro always brings their gear," and then Undertaker's like, "A pro would have booked me on the show."
Oh yeah, they did have it back there with him. Okay, I remember something happened with him saying something slick about it.
And then everybody knows the stories about how Undertaker pretty much left WCW because he didn't want to fight Giant Gonzalez, and then Giant Gonzalez followed him to WWF, and then they had that horrible WrestleMania match. And so Vince throws another dig at him here, and he's like, "Oh yeah, there's a Giant Gonzalez Jr. That you're going to be working with on Monday." And Undertaker says, "I don't have it in me." So
professional always brings their gear.
Has there ever been a time where you went somewhere to a show or attended something where they did be like, "Hey, you got your gear because we need an extra man"? Has that ever happened to you actually?
Yep. Most of the times, let's say if Mustafa was booked on a show and I wasn't booked that weekend or that day or whatever, and I just wanted to kind of ride with them, of course I'm bringing my gear because people cancel. the card gets changed. They shuffle some things around. That's why we always tell rookies, even if it's just filling in a spot for a battle royal, if you are riding around with veterans, even if you are not booked, that is why you always bring your gear, because it does happen.
So
let me ask Mustafa, as the booker in the room right about now, anybody that you booked on a show that wasn't originally booked, but they had their gear, and thankfully they did?
I'm gonna say the most recent show we've had was the only show where I didn't have to get somebody who was there who had gear to fill a spot. Because usually there's always a cancellation at every show, and it's like, hey, you got your gear? Yep. All right, come on, you in. That's generally how it works.
Right. Yeah. It's not something that happens rarely. It happens quite often.
do you remember your name that you used when you were in the CM Punk segment?
Trevor.
So when you and Mustafa, if they have a Royal Rumble this year, I believe you guys are supposed to go. You're going to take your gear and they pull you out of the crowd. They be like, what's going to be your name? You're like, Trevor. Somebody's going to remember that. Hey, he's from the Straight Edge Society.
Right.
That'd be hilarious if you actually have fans that remembered you from that segment.
You know what? No one walks up to me and just like, oh my God, I remember you from, no. But if they're a wrestling fan and I bring up that segment, they'll be like, oh shit, that was you? You know, I'd have to kind of remind them like, hey, that was me. I was in that segment. But no, I haven't had anyone look at me and be like, oh my God, you're that guy.
I think I asked you this before. Who came up with the name Trevor?
They did.
Oh, okay.
It's funny because the guy that was, okay, so when they called me, they were like, when they told me about the spot, they said, well, watch SmackDown tonight and that'll give you an idea what you're going to do. And the guy that was on TV the week before, his name was James. So I'm thinking they did a flip. I think they did a switch. I think his name might have been Trevor. You know what I'm saying? They just kind of flopped him.
Oh, okay.
They could have just called me Chris and called a day, but
no, they can't put you over like that.
I wasn't gonna dispute them. Plus, what kind do you know too many black Trevors?
No, just from
It's
Fresh Prince of Bel Air.
Hillary Banks' fiance.
Yeah. So yeah. So the next night on Monday Night Raw, following WrestleMania, he goes out there. He looks great, destroying Elias, and then it's from there that we're getting ready to head to Saudi Arabia, and they start building up the match between Goldberg and The Undertaker. First time ever. And so we get to the match. Everything's going good for maybe the first 5 minutes. Goldberg whips Undertaker into the corner, goes to spear him into the turnbuckle. Undertaker moves. Goldberg hits his head on the turnbuckle. We covered this on the episode where we covered this pay-per-view, and busts himself open and concussed himself. But the match continues on, and there's a moment in there where Goldberg botches. He goes for the jackhammer while he's concussed, so he doesn't have all of his strength. And then you're also in there with The Undertaker, who's a 300-pound plus man that's also close to 7 foot. Yeah. Shit. And he goes for the jackhammer and completely botches it. It's not even a suplex. I don't even know what you would call it. It was a literal neck breaker. Elevated.
Right. It was a shoot brain buster.
Yeah, there we go. Brain buster. And like it was scary watching it live, but even here on the documentary, it gave you angles that you didn't get on television to really see the impact of it and how scary and how close it was to Undertaker possibly being paralyzed. So the match continues after this. Undertaker ends it with a choke slam, which that's when you knew that the match hadn't gone to plan because Undertaker beats Goldberg with a choke slam. Wow.
Okay. So
hold on, I just want to finish real quick. And so after this match, Candice Michelle, she's texting the trainers to see if Undertaker's okay. She says she texts him. She says normally she texts him after something that looks kind of shaky or spotty in a match. He'll say, "Oh, I'm fine," it's whatever. But she said this time he actually admitted, like, my back is jacked up. And she's like, for him to actually admit that to me means it must have really been bad. Go ahead.
So I'm listening to this, this part in the show where Undertaker was saying like he was looking forward to working with Goldberg. Now, if you've been a listener of ours for a while, you know that I'm like the furthest from a fan of Mr. Bill Goldberg because I just think he's the absolute shits. What in the hell did Undertaker think he was going to do with the 50-some-year-old Goldberg who couldn't work when he was in his 30s? I don't know why he thought that he could pull a good match from him, but I don't get the enthusiasm. Like, okay, don't get me wrong. There's some guys that aren't that good in the indies, but I say, you know what? I think I can work with this guy, and I think we could have a good match. There is nothing about Bill Goldberg that makes me think that we could have a good match. Not to say that I'm the Undertaker, but if I was the Undertaker and I had the Undertaker's ability, I definitely would not want to work with the damn Bill Goldberg. So that was his mistake number one, was being excited about that bullshit.
Well, that was number one. What was number two? The match was number two. The match itself was number two.
Yeah. Oh my God. And then this idiot runs his. Is that the one? Was this the match where he ran his head into the door for the last time? Came out halfway concussed, and then when he hit his head on the damn post, it went all the way concussed. Then, Jesus Christ, this guy don't know his own strength. He don't know his own anything.
And don't forget, it was also like 100 degrees outside.
Yeah. I mean, I admit the one thing, if you're not in the wrestling ring on a consistent basis, that's why guys like, Keith Lee and Kevin Owens, bigger guys can still go, is because they've got their cardio up. When you wrestle on a limited basis, like an Undertaker, like a Goldberg, you can do cardio, but it's not the same as running the ropes, taking a bump, getting back up. It's a completely different conditioning. So yeah, 100 degrees, Goldberg, cardio's bad, 50-some years old. I mean, that's a recipe for a disaster. Again, I don't understand why he even agreed to that match, but money talks.
It was a match people wanted to see for years, so I guess they thought they'll cash in on it. But
who the fuck was clamoring for Undertaker Goldberg?
I mean, think about all the cross promotions, Undertaker Sting.
I never heard anyone ask for an Undertaker Goldberg match. Never, ever.
I'm pretty sure there was a couple of dreams that had that match in it.
Shit.
I mean, you got to think about it. One of the most biggest and loyal names to WCW versus one of the biggest and loyal names to WWE.
I think the only match that people wanted that they never got was Steve Austin in his prime against Goldberg.
And Undertaker and Sting. I still feel like we should have got that one. But.
So
we're not gonna talk about Sting.
So, what's the worst suplex or brain buster you ever took? What's the worst elevated bump you ever taken? Let's put it like that.
Hard to say because my feet hardly leave the ground. I think the highest bump I've ever taken, TC gave me a package brain buster off a ladder through a table. But again, that's working with someone that I trust. So I think that's the highest bump I've ever taken. Other than that, I don't think I've taken any bad ones because again, I don't take risks like that.
I don't take any bad ones. I did stand up, not almost all the way, but a vast majority of the way, all the way up on the top rope and jumped out. That was from Mondo Lucha. That is on YouTube if you guys want to search for it. That'd be Xavier, Mustafa, and Matt Cross versus Overload and Mr. 450.
What year was this?
You know what? I'm going to bring up that time we worked at Mexican Fest and you almost killed yourself. Mustafa went to the top rope and did you slip? And you ended up doing like a split leg moonsault. And I don't know to this day how you survived that.
Oh, he hit the.
I don't think that was Mondo Lucha. I think that was at Racine show.
Was it
Was
race?
it?
I thought it was
That was on
Mexican.
the
I thought it was
Racine
like a
at a.
Mexican fest.
It was a festival, but it was on the Racine.
He hit the
So
John.
yeah, I was going to the top rope,
He hit the John
and
Morrison.
the guy hit the rope, and I was, I don't say what was supposed to happen, but what was supposed to happen, I was supposed to crouch myself, but I came down with so much velocity that I actually did a split leg moonsault. So I was like, I can probably do a split leg moonsault, but I'm like, nah, because when I try to do it in real life, I'll die.
So you did the Starship, whatever the hell John Morrison's finisher is called.
The Starship Pain.
Dude, I wish we had footage of that, because that was a one time in a lifetime kind of thing. Because like you said, you didn't intentionally do it. You just kind of did it out of survival.
That's funny.
That was crazy.
So following this match, Undertaker you could just read it on his face. He was pissed off. Then he started kind of doubting if this is something that he should continue doing, because he'd be damned if his career didn't end on his own terms, which is something that you constantly hear wrestlers talk about, is ending their career the way that they want to end it. And when it doesn't go that way, that leaves you wanting more and thinking about the what ifs and woulda, shoulda, couldas. But he didn't really have time to sit back and reflect too long, because he had already signed on to do Extreme Rules, which had him tagging with Roman Reigns, taking on Shane McMahon and Drew McIntyre. And one of the things that he said here, he said going out there and working with those young guys, he's like, all they have to do is just think and move. But on his part, it takes a lot more preparation and effort out there in the ring. Now, you guys are older now and getting up there in years in the business. Would you guys say that you kind of relate to that? That you tend to have to kind of think a little bit more, and it takes a little bit more to get in that mode and get your body prepared to go out there and wrestle? Or is it kind of still instinctual? All I got to do is think and move, and my body's going to follow?
It's a little bit of everything. Like, and I'm pretty sure Chris Black can co-sign on this. Sometimes you can go in there and the crowd would just be eating up everything. No matter what you do, the crowd just loves it. And I'm telling you, like, that adrenaline gets to pumping and you start doing stuff you've never done before. You have this confidence, you have this energy, you have this, like, and you just go in there and you just do it. But then when you go out there and the crowd's not into it, you don't have that adrenaline pumping. Everything just seems so much harder. It's harder to keep to keep your breath and to stay energized, and you're thinking about being tired and stuff like that, and that affects how you wrestle in the ring. Like, I just wish that was something that fans would realize. If you are into it, we're into it more. If you're just sitting there sitting on your hands, we're not going to be into it more, and it's going to show in the performance. I mean, you guys seen it at the Performance Center shows, when they started doing the empty arena things with no crowd. Like, it's like you need that there. It's odd.
Yeah, definitely. You definitely need crowd participation, because like Mustafa just said, it's the adrenaline that'll get you going. Like, even if you feel you have nothing left, or you feel like, oh, this match is going to be the shits, and then you're out there and they're just, eating out of your hand, and they're there for everything. They're cheering where they're supposed to cheer. They're booing where you're supposed to boo. That pumps you up. That motivates you. So instincts do kick in. I mean, a lot of times, like Mustafa was saying, as getting older, I think for me, I try to deal more psychologically. I don't want any wasted movement. Every move means something. But once you're out there, if the crowd is there for you, you're going to be opened up to do a lot more things. You're going to call more things. You're going to move faster. You're going to bump quicker. I mean, it does play a factor.
And I think that match in Saudi Arabia with, I would say Brock Lesnar, with Goldberg, like, the crowd started being into it, and then they weren't anymore. And it just started to, like, went downhill from there, versus the match he had with Roman Reigns, and the crowd was into it. All the wrestlers were into it. You could just tell there was just this different vibe and different energy from all the guys that was in the ring.
Do you think that, just based off of that, I was thinking, do you think that if they had been in the States with this match, let's say this match was at a WrestleMania and the crowd was hot for it. Well, I can't say because Goldberg fucked himself up. So I don't know. Like if he would have knocked his noggin in America, I don't know if it would have been the same way because.
Well, you know what? Yeah, you're right. Because I mean, that is why the crowd died. Because as soon as he took that post, everything from there was downhill. Yeah. But I don't know. Goldberg is a different beast.
Yeah, let me ask you guys that same question, kind of in a different way too. What is your prep now before you step through the curtain to go out there in the ring, and how is it different from what you might have been doing, let's say, 10 years ago?
What do you mean by prep? Do you mean like pre-show or like before you go out?
Like before you go out, like not taking the crowd into consideration or any of that because you haven't even hit the ring yet. Just backstage, getting yourself prepared mentally and physically. Is it more stretching now and game planning, or is it more sitting back and reflecting and just thinking about what spots you got to hit, or is it just being relaxed and talking to your friends and everything? And once your music is cued, you go out there and you already know what you got to do.
Mine is the more quiet, reflecting, chatting it up with friends to a certain extent. But like it's weird. I've never been that person to stretch and do all that extra stuff. I mean, every once in a while I will. Like if I know I'm, doing something that I'm gonna need some flexibility, then okay, yeah, then I'll do a stretch. But I've never been that person to prepare like that. I just go out there and just do it. It's cold. I warm up in the ring, basically.
I guess I do some stretching. Mostly. Like Mustafa said, chat up with friends or nothing and stuff like that. But I like to make sure that the guy that I'm working with knows the important spots in the match. I'm comfortable now where I can call a lot of it in the ring. I'll get input from the guy about what kind of things he wants to do. Let's say if I'm like, okay, give me 5 hope spots, knowing that I might only use 3 of them, but at least I have 5 to think about. So if the crowd seems like they'd be more receptive to one and not the other, I'll pick that one and say, okay, let's do that. I know a lot of what I used to do when I was younger. I try to map my whole match out from A to Z, like Macho Man style. I cannot do that now. I cannot just. Number one, I can't remember all that kind of shit from A to Z because shit, from years of experience, shit goes wrong. Shit doesn't go like it's supposed to. I really hate when people try a spot, fuck it up, and then they go right back to the spot again. No, you call something else. Like that's a big pet peeve of mine. If you fuck up a spot once, unless you plan on doing it 5 minutes later, do not try to set it back up right away. It looks obvious. It exposes the business, in my opinion. So I don't like planning out my match from start to finish anymore. It's main points, cut off, double down, and the finish, basically. Everything else we kind of do in the ring.
Okay. And it was following this match with Roman Reigns, Shane McMahon, and Drew McIntyre when Undertaker came back through the curtain, walked up to Vince McMahon and told him, I'm done. He's like, I'm not there. And Vince was saying, okay, I'll give you some time to think about it. And Undertaker was like, no, like I didn't want to spring this on you or whatever. He's like, I know I'm springing this on you now, but like I'm done. And then Vince kind of just still keeps pulling the Jedi mind trick on him, where Undertaker's like, all right, I'll go home and I'll think about it and I'll let you know. And that's pretty much how this episode ends. And the next episode, we're going to be covering the most recent WrestleMania, where it was AJ Styles versus Undertaker, which he's talked about on previous episodes of this, that he wanted to get in the ring and mix it up with AJ Styles possibly, and he got his opportunity in 2020. Anything else from this episode you guys want to talk about, or anything else, any other thoughts about this episode?
I just want to bring up that I think that up until Undertaker just said now, like, okay, he's done, he can walk away. It must be a weird predicament to be, okay, I want to retire, but I want my last match, to be meaningful. And then you have what you think is your last match and it bombs. So you got to redeem yourself. And then like Michelle McCool says, then you have a good match, but you think that you can still have one more, and you think you can go out on top again, and then you have another match, and it's just not up to par. So you're constantly, your own biggest critic. So that's weird. That you just have to just be like, okay, I'm done, and just stand on it. I think if the Undertaker wouldn't have had, and I'll probably save that for the last episode, but if the Undertaker wouldn't have had the match that he did with AJ Styles, even though that wasn't a favorite of mine, I think he might be still chasing that last good match.
Yeah, and we will talk about that on episode 5 because I think a lot of things went into his decision making on hanging up the boots or hanging up the fedora or brim hat or trench coat.
Are you saying he's chasing the dragon?
Well, that's actually what I was getting ready to bring up is that Shawn Michaels and Scott Hall, two people who would know a lot about chasing the dragon, brought up how the roar of the crowd is like one of the most intoxicating drugs and is one of the hardest to step away from. That you're always gonna want that and you're gonna miss that, and that's one of the things that makes wrestlers stick around for a lot longer past their expiration date than a lot of them should. Hell, we seen it during the time of COVID or during the PC shows where this virus we know that kills elderly people a lot more than it damages younger people. But you got Ric Flair, who, even though it's not the real roar of the crowd, is cast members, I would say, that attend the PC out there cheering and everything like that. But Ric Flair is still coming out there putting his life at risk because he's addicted to that limelight. He's addicted to that crowd and that attention. So it's interesting. I think it's part of the reason that Xavier Mustafa's finding it hard to retire. But I'm gonna take care of you, Xavier Mustafa. Don't worry about that.
I'm sorry. I don't think we heard that at all.
I heard something about retiring you.
Oh, so it was unimportant. Okay, carry on.
All right, so, anyways, you guys want to give out your social medias?
You catch me at Xavier Mustafa on Facebook and Twitter. You also can catch my solo podcast at XM Cinema, wherever you're listening to your podcast, and you can reach me at XM Cinema on Facebook, Twitter, and Instagram.
You can catch me at The Natural Chris Black on Facebook and Instagram, and also on Twitter at _natural_CB. And also check out the YouTube channel, The Natural Chris Black, mostly New Japan pro wrestling reviews, best wrestling on the planet, or best presentation of pro wrestling on the planet.
And you can catch all of our content here on youtube.com. Be sure to hit that subscribe button, give us a thumbs up, leave us a review, and make sure that you ring that bell so you're notified whenever new episodes go up. Like I said, on our next episode, we'll be covering The Undertaker's Chapter 5 episode. But you can also check out our past catalog of Dark Side of the Ring, Seasons 1 and 2, the Ruthless Aggression Era, classic pay-per-view reviews, as well as interviews here on YouTube. You can also find us wherever you get your podcast from. It's completely different content from what you get over here. It's covering the current product as well as a lot of other entertainment properties. And so be sure to find us wherever you get your podcast from. Just search Saturday Night Slamcasters. You can also find us over on Facebook at Saturday Night Slamcasters. And you can follow me over there on Twitter at SlamcasterTE78. Other than that, we up out of here. Holla at your boys. Come get slammed. Peace.